And then fire a couple of reports off for it. Are we good?
We can steal some shit.
Alright. Hey.
How's it going? Somebody will have to use their watch on their wrist. I don't have any batteries, so I gotta go to the store my batteries. Our clock up there is out. And this is popcorn for me, more engineering, you guys. I don't really know where I'm gonna do that. Something to do with it. It's not even open yet. It's to the councilman.
Someone can take it, I don't care. I suppose we won't be getting our annual pistachios from Interstate.
Try to roll!
Hey, how's it going?
Should be about $6,000, shouldn't it?
What, I did.
Is it your place?
Yeah. Want me to travel?
My ears.
Too bad.
Yeah.
Winter is set in.
Right? Many people coming in at all?
I would like to get a map like that at Gackle. How much would it cost?
A map like this of Gackle?
Yeah.
Of the street map, or this is a calendar?
Yeah, this is the whole town.
I'll give one to the city and then you can,
Huh?
I'll give one to the city and you can get it from the city. So, just an aerial.
Yeah. How much for what I need?
I'd have to ask,
Okay.
so I can do that.
You got a card?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the calendar.
This one's a calendar, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm just gonna grab it, so I can find out.
Twenty calendar, just got them.
Is Harold, do you have something to present tonight, Harold?
If I get ahead of time, I do.
Do you just want to be under the auditor? Do you want to be under the?
I can talk if you want, I'm just here to, I'll probably talk a little bit, but after you go through. I'm not gonna hold it back. I'm not in a.
Yeah?
Should we move that bucket from the head for the shop? Or no, leave it where it is?
Oh, yeah, haven't been up there since before there's.
Oh.
Oh, the bucket, yeah.
Is he personally out?
That's fine with that. They can come back soon.
Probably Spindle and Ray, Wisconsin,
There we
or
go.
half a mile.
I thought maybe,
Down,
yeah,
opening up
it makes it tough to get.
piece, on a mile long field, across Spindle.
We can do this, get some more.
Or without that pickup in
They
there.
sent that at like,
No.
I don't know, almost like 11 this morning.
Open the doors.
And then sent it to Snap at like
Before I
5
get
before.
Yeah.
Oh,
Back up and running, I said, oh my god, what a horrible
I think
day.
it would work fine. Do you have it in PDFs or how do you have it? It's just like,
To hand you.
hand me, okay. I'll take the paper ones and
Okay,
scan them
sounds
and
good.
email them back to you if you want.
Okay, that sounds good.
I just texted Jeff to see if he's around, isn't he?
Yeah. And they were loading up east today, I see semis heading west.
Well, I suppose get him on the Owens. I suppose by the time we get them all,
Yeah.
I think we get them on in February.
So last year they ran into trouble. Didn't have enough trucks to move that quantity. But I believe both the trucks I've seen were metal mining trucks, semis. I think there was a custom haulers.
They were just gonna start a little earlier.
Yeah.
This will give him a couple minutes here and get rolling. Alright. Let's go ahead and get started. Oh. Alright. Go ahead and call the January 6th, 2020 meeting to order. Everyone have a chance to look at the minutes from the December 2nd meeting, which took place at the fire hall. So anyone have any additions or corrections to the minutes? I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right. The agenda, do we have to add Harold Rotunda to the visitors? And we also obviously have more engineering on the agenda. Were there any other changes that needed to be made to the agenda? Now I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
So move. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. I'll have Tom go first.
Sure. At your last council meeting, you guys, the assessments process moved forward. You guys made a resolution for us to move forward with the project. So in the last month, we had our survey crews here. We did a topographic survey of all the areas in the street project, excluding the ball field road and excluding the elevator road. So we're ready to go with what the city wants to move forward with. At this point, we need to know how you guys want to proceed. If we're looking at the $3.5 million project, or if we're looking at a smaller project than that. Some communities will do, if you're not sure on what you want to construct, one thing we can do is we can design the whole thing, bid this project with base bids and alternates. So if, for instance, you're looking at doing 60% of it, we can get it designed, we can get it out the door, we can get bids on that. We can call that our base bid. The bids come in good, they come in low, we can add in the alternates. So that's an option for you. If you want to do the whole thing, that's an option for you. If you want to do part of it, it's an option for you. So that's just some ideas we were tossing around, but it's your guys' project, so you're gonna have to make the decision on what you want to do. I do know you were talking about some infrastructure fees. So what I did prepare, and we presented at our last meeting. We understand that you're not looking at probably the full $4 million project, so we have this scaled back to 3.4 is where we're currently sitting if we remove the ball field road and the elevator road. And on the bottom of this breakdown is what the approximate yearly cost would be for the different size lots. So that's a full assessment.
Okay.
Now I know you guys also talked on possibly doing some infrastructure fees. So we did a couple assumptions. That would obviously change it however you want to do it also. But one of these breakdowns was with a $30 per month infrastructure fee and then a $15 per month infrastructure fee. And we're just assuming 200 users is where we're sitting on those numbers. So I'm going to hand these sheets out also. This first one is with a $30 a month infrastructure fee. Here. And the way this would work is the assessment would be the same amount, because you're going to have to still assess the properties the same, so the loan is backed. But the actual repayment would be less on the properties if you're using an infrastructure fee. So the full assessment wouldn't change, but the yearly payments would be less on the assessments. And here's the $15 per month infrastructure fee. And this is just, these are round numbers. Obviously we need to know the exact number of accounts you want to put the fee on and what dollar amount you want to use, but this is just some numbers for you.
When you say the assessment would remain the same,
Yep.
how exactly does that work in terms of then where the city will be repaying a portion of that assessment, or how does that actually work?
So the full assessment would be the same, but when you send it into the county every year, that what you're asking would be less. From what
Each
the-
property would be less because of the infrastructure.
Correct, yep. It's a little bit more confusing doing it that way, so when those assessments come out, people are gonna see that full amount.
Right.
That's why it would be good to have a public information meeting just to explain to them, the dollar amount is still there, but your yearly payment is gonna be less based on, we're gonna take 70,000 off that yearly assessment with that infrastructure fee if you choose to do so. So we just did this on a project in McCluskey where they had a assessment and then they're paying for part of their project with user rates. That was a water and sewer project, but it's the same theory here. So it makes it a little muddier, but it's still, if that's the way you guys want to do it, you can do it that way. What happens if you look at those bottom numbers is those smaller lots, they end up paying a little more for the project than the bigger lots. Per foot, that's how it ends up working. But
I guess I'm not clear on that whole deal. I'm a little confused because a $30 infrastructure fee,
yep,
in theory, will cover your loan cost. No,
It'll,
$228,000.
So-
Is that what I'm seeing there?
no, so your total cost per year is 228,000.
Right.
So you're gonna take off
That's only
Se-
72,000.
72,000. Yep, you take off 72,000 off of the assessments every year if you did a $30 user fee. And then it would take about, I think 36,000 off for a $15 user fee.
How would a 50-foot guy end up paying more because his assessment, or his infrastructure fee, in theory, should pay for his total assessment? Or, I mean, total cost of the, on 50 feet.
Yep.
I'm a little confused on that.
So look at the first sheet we have here. With no infrastructure fee, that 50-foot guy is gonna be paying $423 a year total.
And with the $30,
With $30 fee, that all goes into that number right there. He's gonna be paying $290.
Right.
So he's gonna have $290.
left to be assessed.
Yep, plus his $30 a month. Because you're gonna charge everybody a $30 infrastructure fee.
That's correct.
So he's gonna have $360 payment on his 50-foot lot or his 200-foot lot. And then you're gonna have to add in that number down there for the balance. So it's not a
So it's
true,
really not helping what we wanted to help.
It's
is
not
it?
helping at all.
it helps the bigger lots. The bigger lots, their total dollar amount goes down a little bit, but the smaller lots, their total amount goes up. It's just the way it.
And when you calculated this assessment on, without the infrastructure,
Yep.
the actual, everything on assessment, what about all that property like down here, the large lots?
Can you do that?
Yeah.
We're just assuming 27,000 front feet, so again, it has to go to your assessment committee, how to determine that. Here's what we're using for,
We do need to list about copies, but it's wrong.
here's how this is preliminary, so this is how we calc the front footage. It's all these footages on that sheets. So,
What about way over on, like right here,
yep,
this side of,
we've got 800 feet on this parcel right now.
so that's all included in the assessment?
Only if it's got a color in front of it, so this one doesn't have anything right now.
Okay.
And they might choose to say this is gonna get 10% assessment because there's no road work getting done there. Or they might say this is getting a 15% assessment and everyone else is getting 100. So it's gonna change. That 27,000 is gonna change. So it's gonna
In other
be,
words, if you take 10% here, you're gonna drop 90% of this bill over to here, right?
yep, right. Yep, these are round numbers, and this does include contingencies in here too. So if we don't use the contingencies, that number will go down. If the project would come in higher and the city decides to move forward, those numbers could go up. We just gotta, this is ballpark.
So I see that as at $15.27. So if we took a $50 infrastructure fee, it'd almost wipe out that guy at 50 feet.
No, that's not the way it works.
Why wouldn't it?
Because you're still gonna have an assessment on the
Right.
balance.
The assessment on 50 feet is only $290 at $30.
Correct, but it doesn't, if you wanted to do straight infrastructure fee across
I'm
the
not
whole-
saying that. I don't think we can do that, but,
So what if we would? What were you gonna say if we would?
You could do a straight infrastructure fee on the whole thing to pay for. We'd have to figure out what that would be. I mean, you're gonna have, we can do it quickly, 228,000 divided by 200 accounts. What is that per year?
Was that a calculator initially?
he just had a very small assessment of $50.
Jeff's doing it there.
1140 divided by 12.
95?
95.
95.
That's at the 3.4, which,
You're just splitting the money into the taxes at the end or your monthly payments.
Oh,
so.
I understand that. I'm just trying to figure
Yeah,
out.
it'd be
And if we do a total infrastructure, that doesn't get certified to the county, does it?
It wouldn't, no.
It's only if we do assessment, that
Right,
gets certified.
but the Bank of North Dakota will likely make you assess it to back it if you're doing an infrastructure fee. So if no one pays an infrastructure fee, then the city can go after the assessments to the county. So you're gonna have to do the assessments anyway. But whether you're paying for it with the assessments or paying for it with the infrastructure fee, that's gonna be
Okay.
up to the city. You have to back that loan, the assessments.
Just, we can use throughout 60%, I assume that was just kind of a number out of the air. I mean, you don't have, I'm just trying to figure out what a 60% project would be, or if it's 60%, you know, just trying to get this total cost number down. What does a 60% project look like? Are you talking like leaving streets out, or not going?
We'd be leaving, at that point, to cut anything back, we'd be leaving streets out. We can't lower the project cost and do the same amount of work here.
No, right.
Yeah. Or the same area, because we're not gonna come in and do a 2-inch overlay on these streets that are
We don't accept that.
disintegrated. We can't do 2 inches of asphalt on a new.
I understand.
So to cut project, we need to cut blocks. That's the hard reality. So we're ready to go, like I said, but it's your project. I don't wanna design it and then you guys say we only wanna do 50%, because that's not gonna really help anybody. I don't know if you wanna go to street committee meetings to start talking about options. Obviously, the sooner we go, the sooner we bid, the better price we're probably gonna get. We topoed it in the snow, after the first snow you had, so there's gonna be some stuff in here that we're gonna have to wait until spring likely to see some of this stuff, just because of the conditions. Some of those situations, we can still bid the project, informing the contractor we're planning to have 1,500 feet of curb replaced. We don't know where it's at yet, we'll have to identify it in the spring, but there's options like that we can do. And we have video, everything, and we have SERP, so I mean, we can start moving forward, now we're ready to do that. If we wait until April to start moving forward, we're gonna be really late bidding this, and we're not gonna be done this year. If we start now, we can, I don't know what is gonna be the best time to bid it, if it's March or April. Or if we wait until we see some of these conditions. Some of that stuff we're gonna have to figure out as we go.
Right. Well, it depends on how the year goes, I mean.
Yeah. And we can bid with 2022 complete, or 21 completion dates too, that's something we can bid different alternatives, completed this year, completed next year to try to get you a better price, or base bid, alternate 1, alternate 2. You know, you could bid all the reconstruct streets in the base bid, and all the overlay streets in the alternate 1 if you want, and see how the numbers come in.
I think that would be a better way to go. Do a base bid on the reconstruction, those are worse.
And those ones have to be done.
Yeah.
Yep. So your money's, you got $4 million that's locked in. So you don't have to spend it, obviously, which we know, but that's what's locked in. So if we're doing this, we're looking at about 3.4 if we do it all. You know, if we,
In your estimation, if we, I say, only did the reconstruction, what do you think, how much that would be in versus the 3.4?
I think we're looking at save another 600,000, and we're down to like 2.75, somewhere in there.
Leaving the yellow as it is.
Yep. And that's gonna depend on the bid, too. So, the reconstruct's expensive, because they gotta come in, they gotta grind it all up, they gotta haul it out, recompact, put the gravel back, pave it, that's the expensive one, so.
Do they, okay, we got, like, do they use concrete then at all?
We're gonna bid it with alternatives, so we'll let the contractor tell us what's the cheapest. We'll either look at using a cement stabilized base in lieu of gravel and paving on top of that, or we'll bid it against a blended base, So existing asphalt, existing gravel, blended and pave on top of that, and then the contractor will tell us what he thinks is cheapest in this area. So both, the answer, there's no straight answers, we've been on both, we've done both.
What is that, a crushed concrete then that they blend with the gravel?
No, they'll put gravel on top of the asphalt, grind the existing asphalt, grind that into the existing asphalt, existing base, and they'll use that as their new base to pave on top of. But they have to haul it off, recompact the subbase, subgrade, and then put that back and then pave on top of that. So,
If we would do that now, leave these yellows out, then all these footages are coming out, is that true or
it's
no?
up to the assessment committee, if, I mean,
Wasn't
they're,
that what was recommended from,
if they all come out, this number's not gonna change much per property, because you've got a smaller project, but you've got less footages. They might decide to say these people are getting 25% assessment, because they still drive on all these streets, you know, that's, or 10%.
I just don't think we're gaining anything here
No,
by taking
No.
half the downtown away.
no.
I thought that infrastructure was the way to go, but it's not sounding like it.
Yeah, I was disappointed on the infrastructure myself.
Do we have till
It-
next month, obviously, to try and come up with some more answers?
Yeah, I mean, as long as we're moving forward, they're not gonna take the money away from you.
But we can have you do, like you talked about, the 60-40 or whatever that, go with the blue and then use the yellow as the alternate,
We-
get going on that, because I just don't see any other option.
So, what I'd wanna do is I'd like to meet with the street committee, work with the whole council at a special meeting, and start going through some of these options, if that's what you wanna do. We gotta start going pretty damn quick so we can get it bid. So, we got, if you wanna, the best way to do it, if you're still unsure, in my opinion, so we can move forward, is to bid the yellow as an alternate. But then we can move forward, we can get it bid and see what the numbers truly are.
That probably wouldn't be a bad plan.
I think it's our best plan.
Pardon?
I think it's our best plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got it surveyed, it's not that terribly many blocks really, I mean. But,
I don't see another option, to be honest with you, because if we start, all this is gonna get less assessed. It's not gaining anything for us.
It's not gaining 3/4 of the town.
In
They're
5
gonna
or
pay
8
the
years,
same.
you're right back to square one with with the yellow again. We overlay it, but that doesn't mean it's gonna hold.
and those are the streets that probably, you know, they're critical, because if you don't do anything with them, they're gonna keep getting worse, like in turning to these other streets. Right now, you can save some of it with the overlays and patching and stuff, so.
There was, and I noticed they surveyed it. There's this stretch right here. This goes, you know, behind the post office, right?
Yep. Yep,
Is it necessary to even include that?
I thought that was taken out.
That's kinda like alley, isn't it?
Is that already gravel?
It's
It
paved.
is an alley, I think, actually. You know, this is the alley behind the bar.
But that's not gonna change the scope of the project a lot.
no.
No,
I mean, realistically.
I don't know, I mean, do we want to put it that way?
Yeah.
I thought we had already done that, because we talked about it. But,
And I'm hoping we get good bids too, you know, right now we're probably assuming a little high on asphalt price ton, we're assuming about $90 a ton. That varies with the oil price and time, we just bid a project like this in Lisbon 2 years ago, we got $65 a ton. So that would be a significant cost change too. But we have to be, in the bigger projects like this, they're gonna mold in, you're gonna get a better asphalt price. We have to assume a little bit high right now at this point, just because we don't know what we're gonna get. that number fluctuates a lot. So if we get $75, that would be a huge cost savings, so.
So irregardless, but if we, I mean, moving forward, we still need that assessment committee, no matter what.
You have to back the loan with the assessments, yep. Even if you paid for it all with the infrastructure fee, you have to back it to the Bank of North Dakota.
Okay. So what do we need to do to move forward with what you were talking about with the?
So you've already authorized us to prepare plans and specs, but you did that at the last meeting.
Okay.
So the last month, we did the topo. So now we'll start putting plans together, but I wanted to meet with you and go over what we wanted to do. So we'll start putting the plans together, and all the blue will be your base bid, and all the yellow will be alternate one. So I'd like to meet with your street committee probably in a couple weeks and just show you how far we've gotten and just talk to you about the project, make sure you're still on that page so we don't get too far into it. I mean, it's gonna take us a few months to get this stuff put together, so it's gonna take some time. So if there's things that come up that we wanna leave this out or add this, or I wanna be meeting with you guys early to make sure you're on the same page with me. Because communication's the biggest deal here. So if we're all on the same page moving forward, it's gonna eliminate a lot of questions or headaches or stuff for anybody.
Can I ask you one thing before we get? Okay, so just for instance, this guy's got a 100-foot lot and this guy's 65.
Yep.
If we do the, I don't care, 60–70% of infrastructure fee, are you telling me this guy's gonna not pay the last 5 years and this guy still has to, or what? It just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
If you did the infrastructure fee, it just comes off of the assessment.
Right.
So everyone that's got an account that you assess an infrastructure fee.
So they still have a 30-year or 20-year assessment, but it's gonna be a lot cheaper than in neighbor.
Because what we're trying to avoid is, we're trying to go at a happy medium,
Yep.
so that the 50-foot guy isn't paying just as much as 150. That's why we're thinking of infrastructure and 60–70% of it,
Yep.
and then assessing. So they're still gonna pay for the 20 years.
So yeah, so if you're doing a $30 a month infrastructure fee at 200 users, all those 200 users have a $360 a year payment. All of them for the whole 20 years. And then you have to add in on the bottom their assessment, because they're still gonna get assessed that full 20 years. Now, if you do the infrastructure fee, and someone wants to pay off their assessment, they're still gonna have to pay that infrastructure fee for 20 years. So they're gonna pay off their full assessment and still have to pay that infrastructure fee. So you can't get away from that.
Okay, input a couple of things. Just gotta give you some food for thought. In Napoleon, they're doing what they did, the three trifecta, they're using sales tax, water, infrastructure fee, and assessments. They split their assessment up 60–40. So this 40% assessment is assessed every year. And the infrastructure fee covers the 60%. So they never certify the 60, but they always certify the 40. So they have two assessments on the project, one that they're gonna use and one that's a backup. So if sales tax and water fees don't become, then when the person pays off their assessment, they pay the 40% assessment. You would not make them pay the 60% assessment to pay off their assessments. That's a hybrid. And that was done with the USDA law. So you could structure financially, so if you, see, and again, when I hear you guys talk about stuff, if you're worried about how people are getting paid, you can split, like I said, so you can have two different lanes. And he gets hit one way in this lane and the other lane. So you talk about your 50 and your 100, 200-foot lot, you can either structure then how much of the loan you want each one to cover as a way of trying to balance it. So if you believe that the assessment people should get half, so you can make it a 50-50. So half the loan we're gonna have assessed at assessment, and the other half's gonna be abated assessment. Or whatever percentage you want.
We'd have to check with Bank North Dakota to see if they would allow that.
Well, they won't allow it.
Okay, so he's saying do two assessments instead of one assessment.
but it's one assessment, but it's two amounts in the assessment. So you're still assessing $100. So when you talk to the Bank of North Dakota, you've assessed $100. But when you look at your assessments, you will have two assessments. And you need the second one to make sure you back up their
That makes sense.
infrastructure fee. But if you, like I said, there's always things, if you wanted to do those kind of things, you can do that.
So that would make it so the little guy doesn't pay as much as the big guy.
Well, again, then you structure how much is assessed and the assessment rates and the infrastructure rates, because the infrastructure rates are fixed, right? So the little guy and the big guy pay the same, correct?
Right.
Well, that's-
What Harold's talking about here though is if the people who wanna go and pay off whatever portion that's not infrastructure fee, that is the assessment, they don't get double hit, so they can pay off that portion. Now, they're still gonna pay their portion of infrastructure fee, but they paid off their assessment, so they don't have to pay for, I mean, obviously, depending on how long the infrastructure fee's in place.
Yeah, but if you adopted
Right,
one assessment,
right,
they can't not pay the
right.
infrastructure.
You levy part of the assessment.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Because every year you're levying, every year, if you have one assessment, the entire assessment is to be certified.
Right,
You pick an amount every year to be not certified. And if you had two assessments, you'd have, this one would always be not certified, this one would always be certified. So when you talk about how you want, so when you get those two numbers, you literally have two numbers and you go right down the trail with that. And then people would say, what's my infrastructure and how much of the project is covered? What's my assessment and how much is covered? So you could do that.
Okay.
But as far as the Bank of North Dakota, they're just saying that you have to assess the full 100.
right.
If you want to have 10 assessments within that 100, so if you wanted for whatever purpose, which would be kind of crazy, but you could do two to be we want the assessments and we don't want the assessments.
Right.
Okay.
But that would give you a chance to be able to do that. But you can't, it'd be impossible to partially abate if people want to prepay. Then
Right.
those people are out of luck. They would have no chance.
Right.
Unless you want to sit there and pretend that they don't have an infrastructure fee, which, I don't know why you're, man, open that door. I won't be at that meeting, I'll just say that.
Okay.
Okay.
So you should work on getting an assessment committee together, or if you have that.
2/3 of it.
2/3 of it.
Last third.
We don't have the same pool people.
Well, three, not sure if we got all three.
We got two,
I thought so. Well, that's what
We'll
they
get
said.
that locked up hopefully here next week or two, so do you wanna meet in 2 weeks?
2 or 3 weeks.
you want a street committee?
You have a street committee, or do you wanna meet
Should we go
full
with
council?
street
How do you wanna
committee?
do that? Because there's gonna be, we're probably needing to meet more than once a month on some of this stuff. And it might be, hey, you guys are available, let's meet next week. So I don't know if you wanna do a street committee, or just call a special council meeting, or how do you wanna do it?
I think the street committee would be a better method.
Okay.
Or project committee, or call it whatever you want.
So just, they would meet with you, we don't have to.
We'd have special meetings here, go over project details, kind of prep stuff before the council meeting to give you guys ideas to mull over, and then all the motions and stuff would be made at obviously the council meetings, but get more into depth on, we'd be looking at, because the plans will look like,
And the reason I'm saying the street committee is if we have a special council meeting, we need a quorum, right? So that takes,
Yeah.
like during the day, Larry can't get away. How about you, Jeff?
It's getting to be where I can't, in the middle of the day.
It's a hell of a mess.
so this is what your plans are gonna look like. So this is a different project obviously, but we're gonna be talking about different intersections, how you wanna do stuff on these intersections. We'll give you recommendations, and there's gonna be some feedback I need from the city on what you wanna do here, and looking at each individual block, because we'll go through all the plans page by page, and some of these meetings will be 2 hours long, so I don't, we probably should do it before the council meeting, or at those committee meetings is really where that type of stuff is best to go over.
Okay.
Who's willing to sit on the committee?
You know, only two of us. So then we would have a quorum, so if there's only two.
I'm gonna be going to Cali
I
here.
would say
right
you'd be
quick.
like John.
That leaves me out.
You know, committee doesn't, it doesn't have to be a certain number, does it?
I don't think so, no. But it'd be better than, I mean, we should have more than
Yeah.
one.
Right,
I don't know what you can have.
so we could go two, and if you can make it, fine, if you can't, or whoever can make it.
You don't have to make that decision tonight either, you're just moving forward. So you're good to have that
What do
option.
you need to do to put together this project committee?
The project, what?
What do we need to do to put together a project committee? Just means we need, that's something we need a motion on? You know that, Harold?
Mayor appoints it.
Mayor appoints
You could appoint yourself, I believe, too.
Yeah, you can. They normally do. That's why you get paid the big bucks, so you can be on all those committees.
it. Well, I just don't know I mean, depending on how long this goes into spring and stuff too, my availability's gonna fall. I mean, off as well, and you same way.
We're probably talking one extra meeting a month.
Okay.
Probably work, is what,
When, how do I make, do I have to do that at a public meeting to make that appointment? Or, I mean, 'cause I need to talk to some people too, if we wanna get 3 people on it. Bill, would you wanna be on it?
On the street
Project committee?
project? Yeah, I guess I can be on it.
I'm just not sure. I don't remember, see, when you made the assessment committee, I know I appointed him, but I don't remember exactly how we did it.
See, this really comes down to what you consider as committee, because if you're considering the committee part of the city council, then you can't be on it.
Then I can't be
But you can be on an advisory committee, so which means they have no ability to make any decisions. But if you had a street committee as a committee of the council, the council could adopt that decisions made by that committee. If it's an advisory committee, then they can just take the recommendations, they would have to make another motion to make the decision.
I think
That's
what
like
we-
in the structure you're at.
we're looking for an advisory committee to
Right.
talk about
Right.
project-specific stuff on.
So,
No decision.
just, yeah.
No decisions, just who lived here, what, you know, that type of stuff.
Okay,
What we're doing at this intersection.
Speaking of intersections, like now, if there's a sidewalk, it needs to be, meets the ADA, it needs to meet the ADA requirements,
Just the
right?
ramps. So if we're doing street work here on this block, we have to improve the ramps to make sure they're ADA compliant, not all of the sidewalk.
What about, like on Elm Street, 1 block west of Main, east of Main? There's like 3 steps,
That's what he was pointing out right there.
right?
That's what he was looking at right there on that corner right there.
There's gotta be an accessible route, so the accessible route could be the other side of the street if we can't make certain things accessible.
What if we would take that sidewalk out completely?
It'd be if there's a road on the other side, we should be able to do that. It's your guys' project.
There's no sidewalk over there.
On the other side. As long as there's an accessible, it's a case by case basis. You gotta look at every block. If you can't make it accessible, either leave it, or if you wanna remove it, you can remove it. It just goes around this way.
Or in front of our house, for instance, there's a sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
Would you have to remove the whole sidewalk?
No. Just the ramps. Just have to improve the ramps.
Or like if you don't, if we would chose not to, I don't have any steps, it's grade.
Yep.
But let's say we don't wanna mess with, access on that corner, we just pull the sidewalk, could we just remove that sidewalk?
Certain situations, yes, yeah.
That's what I'm thinking, nobody uses the front of our house. It's gonna be
It's gonna
done.
cost more money to remove your sidewalk than it is to put a little tiny ramp though.
Huh?
Oh yeah, what's the cost of a ramp? Are they real expensive or
$1,000
what's it
roughly.
gonna cost to remove the sidewalk?
Or is that something straight?
Yeah, we'll have to
I
look
was
at
gonna
that.
say, again, that's for the street committee.
Yep. It's gonna be more than that.
So I guess also, I guess I will
cheaper than the.
Make the street committee myself and Warren and Bill with you as an alternate. If I can't be there. And if I guess neither one of them can be there, it'll just be you two. But it's I mean, you two probably know the city streets better than anyone else. So I would probably defer to you two anyway, unless you want to be on the Tom. Well, 2-hour meetings?
I'll be busy. What about our Would you be interested in that? I don't know. I mean, we wouldn't be making any decisions, we would just
He's
be.
not in city limits now, can he?
I don't know the rules of that.
All right.
I don't know you can, because the assessment kid couldn't be from out of town either.
Right.
Well, let's leave it at that. I mean, that's enough people for a committee, so. Alright.
Okay.
Any more questions for Tom? You're gonna go ahead with the 60, I mean, with the blue as a base and the yellow as alternate one.
Yes, unless you want 2 alternates, but
I don't
that's
know what
really
that
what I
would
see
be.
you guys doing.
I don't see another alternate option.
We can't,
And then, yeah, I mean, sure that comes out, but
do we need a motion?
I don't think so.
No.
We already.
You already made the motion to approve us to prepare plans and specs, so I know what that is.
Okay.
We're gonna prepare an agreement for you that we'll bring to the next meeting for you guys to review 2 engineering agreements based on design of, this is the base bid and this is the alternate. Now, we're not gonna have the construction engineering in that, we'll wait until we bid it, the project, and then we'll come back with a construction engineering agreement. Because if you do just the base bid, it's obviously gonna be a lot less construction time than doing the whole thing. That's kind of our process. Or if you scrap the whole thing and decide to rebid it for 5 blocks or something, we'll work through that. So, we'll start in design, we'll get a hold of the street committee when we're ready. It's gonna depend on how fast we can get going on this. We might be back to the February meeting before we have a street committee meeting. That's the way it might end up. But, so.
Alright.
Okay.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
guys. Yeah, and then
Stick around, but if you wanna take off, feel free.
start thinking about some of this, guys, if you wanna assess the whole thing or break it into, different, infrastructure fees or how, we don't have to make that decision now, I mean, you got time, but just want everyone on the same page.
All right,
So,
Sounds good.
we'll talk.
thanks, guys.
You're up, Harold.
Alright. Where's the pizza? We're gonna be here. This is 18, but I'm gonna kind of bounce around and different stuff, and we'll talk as deep and as long as you wanna talk about any particular thing. So I'm gonna give you kind of a baseline where you're at, so every time you think about any decisions you make. The last fees the city approved were in excess of what was needed. And that process has allowed a surplus every year in the city's books. So you have built up reserves by that amount. So from perspectives, that reserve and those surpluses can be put in this mix if you so desire. Just to give you an idea. So, and now Lauren, let's go to every page. I'm gonna disappoint him, just go to the last page.
He's gonna knock you off your chair.
I'm not too disappointed.
So if you look at it, this kind of tells you where you ended in 18. And I picked the 19 stuff so I can have that relatively soon for you. $500,000 you got in the bank, okay? And you had a surplus, so you actually had about 30 grand you made last year. And again, this comes from, looking at the water fund, you can see the revenues you collect are in excess of what you've needed to operate. That's when you go with a huge increase to cover the stuff you're doing back then. So by rights, in theory, you could write a check against that project for $500,000. So if you wanted one way to cut the assessments down, you could use existing. Okay? using this surplus every year. So if you say we're gonna make 25 grand, you could in essence set up another lane where 25 grand of the bond comes from this other one, which would then cut down the assessments. But then you're throwing all your cards on the table and you got nothing else if something bad happens. I think the one thing when you look at this project, the biggest thing as everything evolves around all this stuff, the first question comes is this the mother of all projects, and is this the last mother of all projects? And if it is, then technically, that project should stand alone as much as possible, so that when you go and you hit them hard, and you go, you give them that culture shock number, the 228, that's the number. You say, that's the last assessment you're ever gonna have, because we're gonna make sure anything else we do from now on will never have that. And that's when you can have that as a selling point. This 500,000 then can be used as your backdrop on future stuff. And the 30,000 a year can be used as backdrop for future stuff. So you can either take basically like the all in on the poker thing and put everything down there and say, then we're gonna start from zero as a city. And any new happens will have to be 100% funded by new money. Or you can say, this project should stand on its own as much as possible, so we don't have to go through this again. So you don't mention that swear A word, assessments. But this is the part where this is really, when you're doing, Don talks about the decision process, this really becomes the first decision. Because if you truly believe you're gonna have other stuff and you're gonna have other things, then you're better off making this as separate as possible. So you're saying, nope, we're not gonna do this stuff, everything else will be covered, but we're not, this assessment has to stand on its own. But you can easily create and poach and squeeze, because you actually do have surpluses now. But that's the thing you can do. So like I said, if you want to go all in, you could in theory possibly knock up to $800,000 or even $1 million if you wanted to do that from that project and take it off that book and put it on this book. But this is a one-shot. And if you try to do that, you would not be able to do that on the next project. There's no way you're going to generate that much money. This is a spot you shouldn't have, is that you do have that as an option on your thing. So, you know, I think, and I think when you talk to Tom more about the other stuff, I think the other thing I keep in mind when I look at this is an if-when thing. So, if it's not an if we're going to do that road, but when we're going to do that road. So if you take all those other things off and do them again, and then, so 2 years from now or 3 years from now, people go, this is the stupidest council I've ever seen, we're gonna do it right.
It already is.
Yeah, I know, okay, well, and say, I'll give you a couple more references on the places you can call. Yeah, but I understand that.
I've heard it all.
Yeah, I believe you have, that's why I say, that's why, so in that perspective, again, this is coming back to the mother of all projects, if this is gonna be done, you know, this is probably the one opportunity you're gonna have to do it. And I think ultimately down the road financially, the pushback would be, because when I've seen people do big projects, the taste in the citizens' mouths afterwards are amazing. It's just so bitter. So, and you know, sometimes you go, yeah, we'll pick it up in 4 years, we'll get things all straightened out again. Usually by that time, everybody has such a horror, you mentioned any kind of road project, and it's just like, and people are just, they just go through it. One of the things, in the city of Wyoming, they're talking about a huge project. They're talking about $14 million project. And they're going through the same kind of discussion you guys are going through. One of the things I talked about with them, and it's actually relevant here, is the question is, can the city of Gackle afford this project? And I'm saying that in the reference of the school. If the school says, we need good roads, and we're gonna step up above and beyond whatever regular process to pay for a bigger chunk, because if you assess the school, you assess the farm also. And there's a ton of farmers. So I would behoove you guys to talk to the school district and the school board to say, is there any way you can help us. So can you pick up even $500,000 in this project, in addition to whatever you would think you owe, so we can make this, because $500,000 would still be property tax to the people there also, because there would be property, they call it city share special assessment property tax. So the city and the farmer would pay that tax. And that's probably one of the, if you look at that, is probably the most realistic way, in any kind of number you start doing, whatever is you gotta get the money out.
Can the school, let's say if we just single out the school, can they pay a higher assessment than?
If the assessment committee and all the people are convinced that the benefit they receive is above and beyond what a normal model is.
I would say there's school buses in this.
Yeah, I mean, that was just-
roads for
I
20
mean,
years.
Well, but just my thing, so I'm saying that's the stuff where, again, part of the things, you're going outside the box. Because really, in this ideal, you gotta go way outside the box. And that's where, I know in Weimar they had the first discussions, and I can't say it was like jovial, yeah, man, why don't you double over here? You can pay double that, no problem. But I'm saying also realistically, the one thing here, again, because I do work with the school, is their valuation is huge. So the fact that they can raise in property taxes, that becomes the fourth piece of revenue for the person. Because when you assess them, they tax you. So that becomes assessment, infrastructure fee, property tax. By virtue of that. So whatever the school pays is no matter what they get, there's still gonna be property taxes. So the fact that you will be paying property taxes in addition to specials, in addition to infrastructure, so when you start looking at all that stuff, now your decision is how complicated you wanna make this. You know, and that's the same thing when you talk about, you know, when you get away from citywide assessments, there's truly the benefit analysis is also great, but do you wanna fight the second battle of not only gonna have assessments, but my assessment rate's not fair, as opposed to just assessments in total. So as you go into every one of those discussions and talk about it, you're gonna open up another can of worms, where somebody can back you and say, again, this reinforces you're the biggest idiot ever in the world, because you don't even know how to do that right. But I'm saying, but from a perspective of, if you talk about trying to drop that four-letter F-bomb, fair. Now you start opening up a whole kind of, everybody's definition of fair. So as you look at all this kind of stuff, your decision first is how do you want to get that thing, get it around in total. And I think it would really benefit somebody, or even asking for a specific agenda item on the city council, or the school board to say we need to talk. Because this deal, it has to, realistically, we do not believe we're gonna get past and drop in all terms, which means you're talking 3.4. And there's no way you're gonna get 3.4, right? I don't see how you do it for people here. It's gonna be, that's just choking out. I mean, if USDA was gonna do it as a state, it'd be a 40-year or 50-year loan. That's how they would justify it. That's the only way you get that kind of money. So now you start saying is, okay, if we're gonna do it, we gotta get everybody in. And that big one in is the school. Because if they get in, that's gonna make a lot of other things work. Then when you bounce back and forth to who pays for it, you know, that's what I'm saying. So technically, just like you were bringing up points in that process as you start putting that puzzle together, is somebody could actually win.
Yeah.
And somebody could actually lose.
Yeah.
And see, now, that's the part where when you start trying to play those kind of games and trying to be the fair guy,
Yeah.
you just might as well say, hey, you know what?
Yeah, I understand that.
So, but there's not, I agree with your motives, totally agree with them, but I'm gonna tell you is if you want people to come back and say, boy, I'm really glad you did it that way.
Yeah.
No one wait outside the cold for it, because you freeze to death.
Okay.
But my rights is, there's nothing wrong with that, and again, you know, just to throw a couple other things out in those concepts. City of Carrington, for example, in a project they did 10 years ago, they had sales tax money as their backup, not the infrastructure. What helps you get 400 grand a year in sales tax, makes it pretty easy when you do some stuff.
Yeah, because what's our sales tax a year?
23.
Exactly.
So, no, I'm saying, but I'm just,
Yeah.
but, I'm just, in the reference of their money. So, what they did is they agreed, when they made the agreement with the people, they said, we are going to assess 100% every year. And we're gonna bank our sales tax. And the first time the sales tax is enough to call the bonds, we're gonna call the bonds. So their 15-year bond became a 9-year bond. So in theory, you can do the same thing here. You say, okay, I'm gonna do an infrastructure fee, and I'm gonna stick it away, and we're gonna have everybody pay 100% of the assessments, and our goal is, in year 10, to have it in a spot where we have enough money that we can pay it off. And so instead of trying to arbitrarily split it and subsidize it, we're going to have them pay it all, and then as soon as we can, we'll get them off. So we can't guarantee you that stuff, but that, and then at that point in time, you could also then use this 500,000 in that discussion as part of saying, okay, it's the new infrastructure money plus this money, and once that hits, if it gets to be $1.5 million and we owe $1.5 million to minute those two, and if it's in year 10 or year 12, we can pay it off. So you can also do it that way if you wanted to manage it that way. But I mean, that's the stuff where as you have people pay stuff, when you bounce back and forth on it, that's where when you start dropping that F off on them. And now you start saying, okay, who wins and who loses, and who's gonna have the ability to pay, and from a perspective, you know, if you look at a revenue stream, and again, unfortunately, if you wanna get morbid, and you start talking about how much more users you're gonna have or not have, or cash flow users or not, it'd be better off having to pay them 100% the assessments as long as possible in call. Because that way, you don't have that problem where you get all those properties back in year 8 when you've been subsidizing them, and you still get it back. Because now their house is vacant, or the person can't afford it, so they stop paying their taxes. So realistically, you could say, I'm gonna get, so your promise to them would be is we are going to put a bunch of money on it so we can call the bonds early. So we're not gonna give you a cheap payment, but we're gonna give you a short payment. Then that avoids having two assessments and having to try to explain that when they go, I don't get it, how come I pay this one off, this one off? But I said, each one of those deals where you're saying is when the people talk, the more straightforward you can be in that discussion, but you pick a path that's very easy to define. And that's why you're getting with citywide assessments. You can say we're gonna go straight white, everybody pays the same, no matter what. I don't care if you're on a road or not, you're still gonna pay because you're part of the city. And they'll say, I don't think I should pay as much as him, and you're going there, does that mean that next time you're gonna pay more? Of course not, but that's not how we're doing this. And that's what I'm saying, and I've just seen it too often where you'll never get people whoever is saying, yeah, you're right, I owe more this time, I'm glad to leave my pay. They're still gonna say you're stupid. So, but that's the thing, so if you wanted to protect yourself, the best thing financially would be to assess it all, collect it all, bank that stuff and say, even though it's gonna be, well, how many years was it?
20 years.
20 years, so you say, well, our goal is 12. So our goal is we're gonna look at whatever we're gonna owe in 12 years, we're gonna set up the finances.
How does that work with our Bank of North Dakota loan though?
No, see, the thing is, I'm talking about that's a bank on your loan, because you can pay that bank loan, that's the one thing about nice and those guys do, you can pay any amount off anytime you want. USDA, you gotta buy them out totally. Bondholders have a call date that says until this date, you can't pay anything, except what you owe. So, Bank of North Dakota, if you said to them, I want to write a check for 500 grand 2 years from now, sure, what do you want to do? You want to cut the years, or do you want to cut the payment? And they'll do that for you. So, I mean, you really entered into one thing that's really nice from that perspective. So, if the people say, no, it's a bunch of crap, they can't do that, Bank of North Dakota will let you pay off partially the loan, and then you can decide if you want to reduce the term or reduce the annual payment. So, from those perspectives, I say right now, this is why when you look at the big project stuff, from the flexibility and option stuff, the more you can do with this guy here, the better. Because the next financing might not be around, or it could be easily 5% plus 2. So all those things, like I said, this from your perspective, at least these things are lining up as best as they can. Not good, but you're best, this is what you're in a sweet spot sometime. And I hate still a ton of money, so like I said, I never downplay that. And everything you're talking about is stressful, and I totally agree. But you gotta try to do is figure out what's the best way to get through this. And I'm just throwing options out, we could do it, and like I said, you could split an assessment, so a person can pay off an assessment and not have to pay the rest of it. If you only have one assessment, they cannot pay part. And if you have a whoosh revenue stream each year, then technically, see, with the assessments, you would then, in essence, abate a percent. And then your question would be, do you want to change that percent or do you want to fix it? You know, to just give an example, I'll go back to Carrington again. Now this year they decided, or this last project, they've committed nothing. They said, well, we will use sales tax. And for the first 3 years, they put 300 grand a year into their assessment. So it covers 78% of their assessments. That's how they're doing it right now. But they could easily drop it to 200 or go up to 400 and cover it all. But that's the way they pitched it. And that's kind of what we're talking about here is you are never committing. And when you talk about having to commit the assessment, you have to commit the assessments, and your abatement would be totally optional and not binding. So if you decided to put the entire amount of the infrastructure in this year and half the next year, people couldn't say, you can't do that. Yeah, you can, because they owe the 100% assessment, period. That's one thing, nothing else you always have to say, you always owe the assessments, period. We have a choice every year of certifying or not certifying, or certifying a partial amount, and not even the same amount. We can hopscotch all around that, and you can't come back and say we are wrong or we're illegal. You can just say that's not right or that's not fair. So like I said, everything you got right now is that point when you go, boy, we do this. Your only deal with the assessment would be if you want to split it to give you the, instead of picking a percent or having a person pay off the entire amount. And again, do you want to protect that person or not? A lot of people in this process are going to come out on the short end. And anytime you pay an assessment off early, the people who paid 100% of the assessments because they don't like them, lose. Because they're paying more principal than everybody else is.
Yeah.
So that's why, so every time you look at stuff,
Yeah.
you are going to pick a winner and a loser. So you can decide if you want to do with your eyes wide open, or if you want to hide and kind of duck the issue and not talk about it. But there are, by revenue streams, by rates, by percentages of each thing, every one, you are picking a winner and a loser. And you have to decide if you want to do that, or if you want to just be generic. Every time you're generic, people can complain, but they can't argue that that's unreasonable. The minute you start tweaking, they can say you're the worst tweakers we've ever seen in the world. Stop tweaking.
I got some of those too.
Yeah.
But I mean, so what you're saying there is that by that thinking, that you would go 100% assessment?
Well, you're always going to go 100% assessment. Now, to me, and again, I'm trying to find a politically correct way. I'm not too politically correct, I'm not trouble.
I guess I'm confused on the part of this 100% assessment. You're saying you could pay it off early, but the assessment's based on 20 years.
No, only if it stands alone. If it stands alone and it's 20 years, it's going to be 20 years. So if you said...
Well, that's what I mean, but the assessment that he's working on or thinking about...
The first time you call the bonds, the assessments are done. So he's going to do a 20-year assessment option. And the assessments are going to be legally bound for 20 years.
Right.
Whenever the bonds are called, the assessments that exist at that date are abated and gone. You know when you heard, when Fargo was going through that whole deal about the slush funds and all this other crap? The interest spread you're going to have special assessment funds make money if people pay because you make money on interest.
But he's only accounting for 10% overage, right? How's that gonna be, you can't...
No, you're talking about two different things now.
Oh, okay.
If you're talking about the project, I'm not talking about the project.
See, your interest rate is fixed at 2%. The city's gotta decide what to charge.
You can charge
interest rates.
3%. You can charge-
Okay, that's where you get your, I got you, okay.
Most communities will add 1%.
I see.
That's the
Okay.
overage.
That's
So,
already,
so that in and of itself, if you ran the full 20 years, the fund would make money. And that's when the guy from Fargo was complaining about the slush fund, because he was saying is, the minute that extra 1% money with all the 100% payments, you needed to call the bonds in year 18
yeah,
to be morally right.
That-
And they were like, whoop, whoop, whoop.
that's what I wasn't saying.
Right, so what you're gonna do is, like I said, so you can pick this a wholly aggressive approach in the way of getting that thing funded to get it paid off as soon as possible. So you're gonna say is, we're gonna take every financial marker, so we're gonna basically overfund it. We're gonna make you pay the assessment, and the interest, and more interest, and we're gonna have an infrastructure we're gonna keep on the side.
Right. That's the only way you really could.
That's all, then you can say, that, and we'll guarantee you that whatever year we get it,
Right.
we're gonna call this thing off and it's gone. So while you're choking on this big assessment, and it's big, I'm not arguing that, the goal is not to make it a 20-year big, it's to make it a 10 or 12-year big. And then you set all the other rates and revenues, you try to match to that part. So again, that's where the $500,000 could come in, and that'd be sitting there as your first, here's the city's commitment to you. We're gonna put in 300,000 to start the key. And then we're gonna make all the, whatever we can make above this is plus infrastructure, so we can be at $1 million in year whatever. But I'm saying that's the part where if you wanna do stuff. And realistically, you know, this is where, again, trying to address it is, will people in 10 years be able to afford as much? So the goal, if you look at it realistically, be to have people overpay for 10 years than pay for 20. Because you might have a huge property back in 10 years, which would choke everybody. So, I mean, if you're gonna do it, as I'm saying, that's why you start with all this deal, you go, man, if you're gonna start doing that stuff, get that puppy done and get it paid off as fast as possible, just so everything you got at it. And then you can start talking about, you know, because when you can get stuff to go away, so the infrastructure would go away, as would the assessments.
Right.
But you're saying we're gonna do both, because we believe that, for two reasons. First of all is, we wanna get paid off fast, second of all is we wanna be fair. And by having both revenues, you win here but lose here, you lose here but win here, okay? So everybody in theory is getting paid something, because they gotta pay both. But I'm saying, but that's the stuff, if you look at those kind of things, I mean, I just think if you had the full 220,000 to collect in year 15, 16, and 17, it'd be kinda scary. But I'd also talk to the school and say, man, you know what? If you could say even like 300 grand, you could go, could you find a way to pay 300 grand? So we could all assessors, whatever, then you go through, get down to the mumbo jumbo stuff and say, we wanna have you be able to pay another 300 grand above. So if we can take $1 million off this project, off this generic number, one way or the other, or get it down to $1 million, virtually by having other places come in. Then when people talk, you can go, hey, here's what we've done everything we possibly can. We've tapped every possible vein we can find. I just think if that's when I look at things, just think that if it's, especially if you can say this is not gonna happen again in your lifetime, then it's all, if all those things are more complicated.
And then if we put on an infrastructure fee, you know, along with the assessment, can we do the same thing with infrastructure, assess, or have a higher infrastructure fee at the school?
Sure, just
So-called
like water
private
rates, yeah,
residence?
just like water rates, you know, you get commercial rates, business rates. That infrastructure fee has no grounding of what's right and wrong. It's what you feel comfortable with. And however you wanna base it. You know, it's interesting, I had one city, when they were going through that Prop 2 and the property tax, he had exactly the amount. He had the 4 rates in mind he needed that would put him exactly in the same spot. Between, you know, school, commercial, apartments, residential. He had it there. So I mean, so that's part where, I mean, you could set an infrastructure fee based on valuation. So for example, if you say, even though a church is exempt, you could say, I'm gonna put a valuation on that church and and convert my infrastructure to mills. So, and they'll go, well, you can't do it. Well, you might say it's stupid to do it, but you can't say you can do it. And we're back to that whole fair thing, and every time you open stuff up and say, that's what I'm saying, every time you tweak stuff, you're gonna have to try to defend is whether or not you can stand behind it or not. And if you're gonna blink, then don't even think about doing stuff like that. Then you're better off saying is, if you can't convince people, say for example, so like infrastructure and assessment at the same time. If you can never convince them that, then you're saying, well then I'm not gonna even bother, I'm gonna assess the whole thing, I'm not gonna waste my time. We're gonna let that puppy ride, then we're gonna take it off book, and you guys don't like what we're doing, then do it, we're gonna do the whole thing, and you're gonna pay for it. But if you want us to work with you, we're gonna try to find all these ways to try to get everybody having skin in the game and hopefully roughly the same amount of skin in the game. But the more you, again, that's when you start deciding stuff, but, I mean, for this $4 million of 2%, you know, it could happen. Could oil prices and asphalt prices drop? Sure, it could happen. I mean, that's where you're coming back to, that's always come back to the if when. And if you just say, when are we gonna do it? Well, we'll do it in 4 years. Well, then technically, if you got this thing set up to turn back $1 million of that 4 million and then borrow $1 million at 4% or 5%,
Right.
you go, well,
No,
well, they could take a shot at you. Then you have to go, well, maybe you might be a little right on that one.
All right.
But,
Okay.
so, but I'm saying, so like right now, the part from, you know, when you look at that last page, the fact of the matter is, the other thing that puts you in a good spot is you are still generating, not a lot of money, but some from the operations. And what the nice thing about that is if you go with the infrastructure fee, you can tell people with some confidence that you're not gonna ding them with another, just a base water rate increase because the water fund is still fun. So from that perspective, this is where the financial choices made in your bag have opened you up so you can say, I can go with it, I can add even another $10 of infrastructure because I can tell them that $10 I can do because I'm not gonna raise $10 on the water because I don't need to. But so I'm gonna raise it there, so that's where I'm gonna raise it. So you're not gonna raise 20, because I don't have to for right now. So you can say probably within the next 5 years, I won't have to raise water rates and operating costs, and then my operations won't take a beating, and that's what this statement says, you've had the ability to do this stuff. So from those perspectives, again, in your financial spot right now, you're in a good sweet spot there, because you're not coming back with, well, we're gonna have to raise not only infrastructure fee, but just a basic water, just a basic sewer, just a basic garbage, plus additional property taxes, You could, if you had to, say, we will give you breathers. That's what I'm saying, if you hit them hard, and again, you can say, we're gonna go right at you, we're gonna get you with to one or another, we're gonna get that $228,000. But that should be the last time you see an increase from us. The school we can't trust. Or the county we can't trust, but you can trust us, so we're not gonna hit you for a few years. And again, that might help with the selling process, when you talk to people, because if they say, okay, if I'm gonna hit, we're gonna bite a bullet, let's bite one big bullet, rather than 5 bullets, because, you know, that's the same whenever I watch with water rate increases for a city, it should always be consistent, but it never is, because after you fight that first battle, you get so chewed up, you go, I'm not even gonna deal with it. So you won't raise rates for 4 or 5 years, and you gotta go a huge increase again, and it blows up again because it's a huge amount, you're saying, you know what, better off you're gonna, and that process makes it very tough to finance. So that's what I'm saying, at this point in time, you would not have to worry about funding that. So all those things, as you look at it. But ultimately, the one thing to aggressively make this work is if you're able to pay it off sooner than 20 years. Talk to the school, see if they can help you. Because that would really help you out a lot too if you did. Because again, that would make this not a Gackle project, but also a Gackle school system. And that's, again, like I said, you have enough reasons to talk about how it does make a difference. But financially, you guys are sitting still pretty good.
Or no?
For now. But see, that's where you, and again, right now you are actually, you're schizophrenic because the operating side, most cities have killed being your spot. With all the capital infrastructure costs, blows this guy. But I mean, if you just looked at this one here, you go, we're doing, yep, you are. But that doggone big beast sitting out there just ate him up. And that's one thing that's one part of this project is gonna just consume you guys, in all aspects of the city for everything. And that's why it's nice your financial spot where it is, because in all those kind of projects, you always drop the ball in the operations. And then next thing you know, you're in the hole, because you're so focused on the change order, do we do this or that, that you don't bother talking about whether or not you're paying your bills. But like I said, this is kind of, you're in a spot where you can honestly make realistic and meaningful choices. But your first deal ultimately comes down to you're gonna do the project or not. And then the second thing is, do you want the project to stand alone or not? Or do you want everything? Because that's that. After those two things are really decided, everything else is just mechanical. You know, whether you subsidize or not, or do the other stuff, that's just a choice you have. That will be after the fact. Because you're gonna assess 100% no matter what. Right? So the deal of the matter, the things you're gonna have is you're gonna have the project, and you're gonna have the assessments, and then you're gonna have to decide what you're gonna do about the assessments. Are you going to do this other stuff or not? And then what structure do you wanna do the other stuff? I'll be glad to come back and talk about those kind of things, but in all reality is, you could, like I said, you could just let that whole assessment, that whole thing run its course.
Move that back a little bit.
Yep, because you will then make sure nobody else has a problem. But that's where you're at. Okay. But you are sitting, as a city right now, operationally speaking, you are still in good shape, and that $500,000 sitting in that bank is available. It is not money you collected in advance that you're going to have to pay out. It's not dedicated or legally bound to anybody else. It's your money that you can use in this process.
All right, any questions for Harold? I really appreciate your input, really, appreciate it. That was good stuff. Helped a lot.
Yeah, like I said, if you want to come back, you have no problem doing it.
Sorry, I won't turn you down.
Thank you, Matt. I'm very practical way. I don't go through much of this stuff. Hopefully I did the next thing, actually got stuff that was.
Got some clarity. Thank you.
Thanks, Harold.
Yep.
Thanks, Harold. Bill, what do you got for city maintenance?
You got 2 fire hydrants that are down.
Froze up?
No, they're not froze, or something broke off down below.
Okay.
One down by Mike Martin's and that black one over here across from the
By the park.
pickleball court.
Nice. Skating rink.
That one, last time I filled, or that last layer on that ice skating rink, I couldn't get it shut off all the way. But luckily, the guy from the state was down in Edgeley, so he came up and helped me get it shut off. We had to take the head apart, and then I had to shut that block down just for an hour or whatever it was that night.
Okay.
But
So is that one
as far as right now,
now?
we don't have to dig anything out.
Okay.
I just have to order the parts. And I was getting a quote from Ferguson Water,
Okay.
so probably order them parts.
But the one by Mike's is,
One down by Mike's is probably the same thing what happened to this one.
okay.
So as far as right now, we're not gonna dig them up until the guy from the state. If he can't get the parts out to get it fixed, then we'll
Now
take
they
it.
gotta get up top.
Alright.
Okay. Is that it?
For snow removal, anything.
I know it's on the agenda, you want to just address it now? Might as well. What's the snow removal topic?
Well, we've had a few complaints and a few things going on, but I just want to address one was the deal that we made with Kevin, and Kevin when he was in here, about he would clean Main Street out for us as long as we keep his alley open right away in the morning. on the bar there.
Yeah.
And from my understanding, it hasn't been done right away a few times, but we gotta make sure we do that, or else he's.
Yeah, we knew it was a right away in the morning thing, so just move
If
it.
we, I'm not saying put it, Lauren and I talked a little bit, I don't know exactly your guys' schedule, but if we can make it some,
But our main thing is get the streets opened up so
Yeah.
people can
We understand,
get out of their houses.
yeah.
but it's important that he does our sidewalks too.
Right, totally understand that. I was never told that it was a get it done right away in the morning. I never knew that.
Yeah, and I know Lauren, like.
Well, I don't know if we ever, I
Care
mean,
center and.
yeah, I don't know that we ever actually got to that level of detail in terms of the time frame, either. I just know that we agreed that we move stuff off the sidewalks, and we would keep his alley open, and then he would keep the sidewalks.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact he's out early to do this Main Street, he just like get his part done. A lot of those hours, just what I'm getting at, it. So if we could get that as kind of a.
Yeah, no problem. I just
Appreciate it.
like I
The
said,
one down by his house, he said that one doesn't matter when you open, it's just for the bar.
You know, I think that's all I would have to talk to you. I think I'll, you know, like we always do the fire hall, and then, like if I'm out before you, Tom, then I'll just swing, go through that alley, and then come back on the west. And the reason we do the west side of the care center is that seems to work really well, because the shift change comes about 6:30. Then they can park on the west side. The night shift usually parks on the north side. So then when we're done with the west side, we jump up to Main, and then.
Right, and like I said,
the vehicles get broken.
I don't wanna mess with your guys' routine either, but if we can squeeze it in some, I know there's the necessities of the care center and Main Street, I get that, I'm not saying.
With the care center aspect, I mean, I'm hearing a lot of flack from them too. What obligations does the city have for the care center?
Should just be the streets, I assume.
Well, it's just the street, and then I think out of courtesy, we've always shot through the alley because that's where the ambulance loads.
Well, there's some disconnect there, it sounds like,
What have you heard?
but, oh, I'll just talk to you about it
Okay.
there. Yeah,
Then I think that's something.
it's they're paying businesses like the rest of us. I have to pay for my snow removal, you get to pay for your snow removal. That for some reason, I think they've kind of graduated into, they expect us to do stuff, and I just want to get clarity on that, what we have to do. Because they think that they are entitled to a little more than I thought we had to do for them. Are you getting that vibe, you boys?
As far as I know, I think, you know, besides the alley, what else are we supposed to do?
Well, that's all I think that we need to do, but I think that,
The old guy that used, the other guy before that used to do it, he used to have them move the cars and do it himself right along when his cars were and stuff.
well, I
I
just get a little vibe from.
I got a phone call from Kim, who runs it,
Right,
wanting me to go over there and somehow get their back door.
right,
That back door has a 10-foot drift up against
right.
it.
And-
I
yeah.
said, well, you know, I don't really do that, I don't have anything to do that with. I said, what I'll do is I'll get a hold of Troy Nelson, I'll have him call you and you can deal with him on it, so.
I
that's
got,
what she
that's where I was.
Well, yeah, most of them was gonna say we already got in trouble for helping people.
We
out.
can't
Wanted
do
to
that.
see us do them, yeah.
did. No, I did, yeah, I said, I can't do that.
Right. And he
I
went
don't
over
know
to-
if Troy
He
did it
did.
or not.
He did.
And I called him and told him he might wanna go talk to them.
Right.
So basically, we're just gonna keep the path down the alleyway,
Like emergency path.
emergency path.
And
For the
it's
ambulance.
normal.
And that's normally what we
That's
do.
our norm.
We do that a lot by the dumpsters, cause we have to get in
You
there with
gotta
the
access
garbage
your
truck.
dumpster.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So, I mean,
Okay.
usually I go down the alley, plow that alley out so the ambulance can get through, clear out the lot for the dumpsters,
Okay.
which is what we need, you know.
And then we got the whole thing with Troy taken care of now, is that
I
right?
believe so.
Kind of
Yeah,
on,
as far as I
We
know.
haven't paid enough.
we wanna all be on the same page with him
Yeah.
too, and not piss him off, so.
Right.
And to my understanding, he was, when I talked to him, he was satisfied with that, being on call. That if it's a 4-inch or 2-inch snow drift, you know,
Yeah, he told me that was fine, cause he had, you know, other stuff he needed to get done.
Some winter we're gonna have less snow and not like all this, right?
someday.
And that's something we probably gotta bear in mind when we've been budgeting. We just gotta allow some, I don't know what, you know,
Well, I'm gonna say, maybe that's something we have to add into the budget, because I know we haven't in the past, so.
right.
We've been getting a lot more snow.
Well, the last 2 years we've had obviously near record amounts, so.
Is there any other problems with snow that?
That's all. I mean, I haven't heard anything, so I guess that's why I didn't know what the topic was, so.
The only other issue I got is Rambo down on the street parked the wrong way and
Other
parking
side of the
3/4
road.
of the way into the road.
And we gotta usually go way out around them and get a big bank
And I don't know how we're gonna resolve
Then he'll
that.
move his vehicle later on, and now you still got a big bank coming.
Well,
out.
he moved his vehicle and I kinda pushed snow, you might have seen that, I don't know how far over I need to go to where the curb's at, but tried to provide him a little better area, rather him off in the road, preferably in the right
When
direction,
was that today?
Yeah.
but,
Well,
I
see,
did a little more there, but I also, I didn't know how much snow I should push up in his yard, so I went in between the two
I'm not gonna
houses,
even touch his yard, I'm just
to
gonna
the
go on
one
the
to
other
the
side.
south of him and Rambo's house, and just kind of pushed it up a little bit. It's still on the boulevard, there's nothing in his
Still,
yard.
people have to stop because you can't go two
Right,
ways.
and then if you get two semis that are coming,
Even a car.
Two vehicles
Yeah.
coming.
You
Yeah,
got two
I think
cars.
we should do there is like on the north side of the White, we used to make it so we can push it back. And I did it by the Legion over here. If you put your bucket down on that payloader and just go real slow, it'll hit the curb. And you can just use the curb as a guide, and you just cut it. And it'll actually, when the bucket's full, it'll windrow it out over here,
You can even do that with your blade if you wanted to.
you know, and then you can just push it all the way down to the Whites and widen it back out to the curb. It's
So
not the
just
quickest process, I'll agree with that.
providing him a little better access, I guess. Just don't want him out.
Just so there's no accidents.
Yeah, get tired of having to wait to go around, so.
And then I thought too, maybe I should talk to him, with a pending storm, he could move that vehicle over and park it on the co-op parking lot, on the north side of the building. Because we cleaned that, so he'd have
He's got
access
two
to back it
vehicles
back
now.
out again.
He might wanna do that, cause he was stuck that one day,
And now he's got two vehicles, so.
Yeah, got a Subaru.
They got that little
and they're
Subaru.
parked exactly opposite each other.
Well, and maybe we need to talk to Andrew too. I mean, because obviously if you're parked the wrong way in traffic, can't get around you, then on a US highway, or state highway or
Well,
whatever.
I know
that's what-
Alex is aware of it, 'cause he told me that one day, I think I'm gonna go over and ticket him.
Alex stopped and talked to him and told
Did he talk to
him,
him?
before we had any snow, cause he was always, he'd just pull in with his front tire up against the curb and the back end of that van sticking way out. And Alex told me he almost ran in the back end of it one night. So
But see, it was like that in the
stopped
night.
and told him.
Because I'm all about being fair and giving someone a warning or chances, but I mean, he was just like that tonight again.
I just think if we do it, widen that street out this time and let them know what the situation is and what we're gonna have to do. I mean, we can't have this all winter long again. You know, and maybe that's an option, but if we, that way you can get it off the side and, you know what I mean?
And maybe the person should go, have somebody go with Andrew and explain the council side. And then if he doesn't abide, then it's gonna be ticket time.
I'm good with that.
Can I make a comment?
No. You can get on the agenda by letting Sherry know
I
you'd
know.
like to speak next Wednesday, or next meeting before the Wednesday prior, and we'll get you on there.
It was just about snow removal, but for this post office, that alleyway. The guy that delivers the mail doesn't want to pull in because he can't turn. And he's been giving Kate a hard time about it. And he calls her up at 4 o'clock in the morning and says, go to Streeter and pick up your mail. And he refuses to deliver it.
Where is it he can't turn, I guess, that's what I'm not sure.
He backs into the post office driveway in the back.
In the back.
And if you only do one path, the idiot doesn't know how to drive, and he has a problem turning in, and then he won't do it. He just pulls up there, looks at it, and then takes off, and
I back that garbage truck up there every week.
I know.
That's why I quit moving snow there. The guys-
But this guy, he's got a huge beard on him, he's old, he doesn't really drive all that well.
So,
So who's his boss?
well,
And Case complained, but it doesn't do much good.
He's a contractor, so
Maybe
I'm
she
sure
could,
he's-
or should complain to whoever is his superior.
Yeah, she did, but it doesn't do any good.
so is there anything that,
It's
I
not a
mean, is there
city
anything, I
issue.
was gonna say it,
So if you could cut it wider, it would make it easier.
That's contract, that's, we don't.
I always did it when I got paid to do it, but that's
Right.
why I quit, because the guy is a pain in the ass, I'll agree with you on that. He is.
I
don't
we don't do it.
It's just a little van he's driving too,
Yeah.
you know?
So who's the
It's
contractor
not
now
the
that does
city's
it?
responsibility.
Huh?
Who does it now?
I do. Or she does with a snow blower. Because my skid steer broke. It's being fixed.
I think, I mean, cause that's based on the post office to have that snow properly taken out, right? Cause that's not.
Yeah, it kind of falls on the same concept that we were talking about their care
Yeah.
center. We can't go and do everybody's work.
No, I mean, just make it as wide as the alley and then you can't complain.
As
Good
long as
luck.
we're on the subject,
Good luck.
then who
I don't know
cleans
how
out
we're gonna
all the
make you not.
mailboxes then?
Yeah.
Cause I got grief about that too.
About what's that?
The mailbox.
Mailboxes, like on Berkshire.
I saw you
I
move
did
some
them
stuff just to be nice, but I don't know what.
Wasn't that the homeowners?
That's the homeowner.
That is the homeowner.
It is.
Yeah.
I have to do
If
mine.
something happens, I mean, I'm not perfect with that machine.
Well, I was
If
gonna
hit
say.
something,
You take out a row of mailbox and you gotta replace mailboxes.
Right.
I mean, cause all you're responsible for is cleaning the streets that the mail, I mean, can get, I mean,
I've
if,
gotten hired to do it on Main Street numerous times, and it's the homeowner's responsibility, that's who paid me.
Right.
So I mean, I don't.
Right.
I have to pay for mine.
yeah, I was gonna say that. So, I mean, I guess when it comes, I mean, the alley behind the post office, is that not as wide as the alley right now with snow?
Well, we've opened that up, I mean, we run snow down that alley, that's where we've been dumping a bunch of snow. So, I mean, like I said, I get back that garbage truck down there and
Well,
up,
that's gotta be enough.
up the driveway to the back of the post office, not a problem.
That's half the size of that van he's in.
But you know how to drive.
Do you have any problem with that snow we put on your lot?
No. As long as you don't pile up in front of my door.
No, I mean,
What are we gonna do with that corner there anyway?
you know what I actually think, what I told Bill this last time, I pushed it back on that lot, and I'll just say Terry Jager, oh, she mad. She come over just wild.
She's uphill from that, doesn't she?
Because supposedly some snow got dumped on her backyard,
Oh,
and then in the alley there, that two-stall garage of her mother's,
It ran.
she was mad about that.
No, did you push snow up behind there, that two-stall garage?
No, I wasn't aware of anything.
Nobody pushed any snow up, all she's getting is the bank, you know,
And it's
which
just-
comes off the ends of the plow or the blade, just like everybody in town gets, you know? I mean, people gotta shovel out their driveway, the end of their driveway, and that's what she's complaining about, cause nobody dumped any snow there behind her mom's
There
garage.
was none dumped.
Okay.
It's, I mean, it's tough to lose this much snow, I mean, and it blows.
It sucks,
and it blows
everybody's
tomorrow.
feeling the pain. You're pushing snow on my yard, pushing snow on,
Thing is,
everybody's putting.
you know, we were gonna go clean hers out, where she's talking about her mom's double garage, and like you said, it's just that berm that comes off the plow or the blade.
Yeah.
You'd have, you know, everybody in town's gonna want you to go clean their driveway, the end of their driveway.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's just not your responsibility.
Exactly.
I mean, I know it wasn't ever in West Fargo, and I know, I mean, there's always a berm in my driveway that I'm responsible, I mean, I don't know how you do it with, I mean, 200 driveways, I just don't even see how it's feasible, so, nor mailboxes.
You have to buy a gate for your blade, we don't wanna be trying to. All right.
Okay,
well, thanks for.
well, yeah, thanks for
As
standing.
far as that corner, I think maybe we'll just try to stay off a bit more with the payloader and the pusher. And just have the tractor bring it up, and then he can turn and hit it and take it into runs there, a lot.
How much room is left there?
There's a lot. And like the other day, in order to get in there to get started, I came off of your driveway. You know, you had about a 4-foot drop, of your driveway, so I just took that, cleaned that. So I had access to get in from the north.
Thanks, Ron.
It just takes a little bit and it works well. And I think we done, that corner wouldn't get as blind.
We need somewhere to go with it.
Such a blind corner to build, so.
They could put it on my yard. I don't have to mow my lawn till
Well,
You don't know?
that's all I had, okay, so, the other thing, oh, Sherry, what do you got?
Auditor. Okay, for the meter reads, I have 2 people that I don't even get to see meters. One, they have no access to their backyard. So the one, I guess I had Bill climb the fence, because you can't get in unless you climb the fence, and you better hope that them dogs don't come at you.
Or the pig.
Or the pig. So I have to call them, the one, and have them take a picture of it. And then there's another one down here, there's no access to get in the backyard, and they have fencing all up, so I have to walk up to the door and hand them the paper. I don't know if they go in the basement to look at the
They
meter.
go in the basement. It's in
Okay,
their
I don't know
basement.
where they go to look at the meter, and then they come back up and give me the thing, so I don't even get to look at the meter at all. I mean, aren't we supposed to have access to them?
I don't know.
Can you
Well,
rewire it
the
to some
one,
other?
the
I was
one
gonna
with the
say-
gate, they should be told they need to put a gate there for you to get access to the
Well, that one's
backyard.
kinda scary anyway, cause you never know if that big dog and that pig's gonna get you.
Those dogs, they don't bite.
Okay, so you'll be going in and read it?
But they don't.
Then that's gonna be your job to read that one, cause I'm afraid of that.
The other one is in their basement, and they don't want anybody going in their house.
So can't we
basically.
put a thing on the
I was gonna
outside?
say,
Well, we still have to get in the house to get in the basement to put, you know, to run a wire down to the meter, to put an outside reader on it, and, you know, she opens the door this far, and you hand the clipboard through to them,
Well, yeah, I need to think about that.
and she closes the door, and you stand there and wait, and she comes back up and hands it to you.
So you have no way of knowing if they're doing that?
I've never seen, I haven't seen it all yet, neither have they.
I don't like that.
I've never seen it. At least the other one, she takes a picture of it, the meter, and
How
sends
do
it
we
to
get
me.
in legally to get access to the outside then?
I guess we'll follow up with, unless.
Maybe if next time when I go over to meter readers, I give it to them, I talk to them, ask them if we could come in the basement and put one of those things.
I mean, we have access, we have right to access it, I know, just have to work with Isaac, but it'd really be nice if we could avoid.
I will go and talk to them nicely. and
Because
see
what we'll have
what's-
to do is and we've done it before, we'll get a warrant and have a cop over there and then it's just stupid.
I know
I
it is.
mean, so it'd really be nice if we could,
When I go over there to read this next time, I'll talk with them both and
Okay.
ask them if there's any way
So,
we can go.
all we have to do is drill a small hole, put a thin piece of wire through it down to
Okay,
that meter, it'll take 5 minutes.
okay. I'll talk to them when I go over there then, because
Depending on where the meter's at,
Um,
you know, because if we have anything, we can put it in the front of the house so that.
well, if you don't put it in the back, I have no access to the
Well,
backyard.
yeah, whether we put it in the back or the front, at least she'd be able to read it, wherever it's at, as long as it's
Well, there's some
outside.
access on the outside.
I know, and the fence it's got on this long.
I mean, they're just.
Okay.
Do what you gotta do, you had to.
I'll call and ask, I'll ask him. And then I just put that abatement for Steve Worzer, but we talked about it and we're going to,
So, it's, he must be an out-of-stater, I assume?
he's gotta be an out-of-stater.
Does he, what's the address on that form you got for his mailing address? Because we have to mail him it's the same thing we went
Yeah.
through for Gail Cavalon,
Yep,
requesting that his property value be lowered.
yep, same thing.
Isn't it too late for that?
I thought so, but obviously not if, not yet.
Well, I got it on the 23rd. And last time we rushed, here's that same piece of paper. Last time when we rushed.
Obviously it comes from,
I think, yeah.
block 7 of zone, lot 10, block 7 of zone. Ironwood Court, Fargo, so yeah, it's Fargo resident.
So we just have to ask
So basically, we have to set a date to have the hearing, and we can have it at the next council meeting, or we can set up a special meeting.
Let's do it at the council meeting.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So I sent him a letter telling him,
Hearing.
So,
so this is the one, I'm just sending him this, not the application, notice of hearing, and I'll put it for the next meeting and send it in the mail to him.
yeah,
Okay.
same thing with Gail.
Right, but his I can send right.
We need a special one for that.
No.
Okay,
I thought the only reason we did that in Gale's is because I thought we had a deadline, but
well, the way we read it was we had
Right.
to do, we thought we had to do it so
I
fast.
thought we had to do it within 10 days, we just had to act on it within 10 days.
Who does the estimating on the property down?
Trish Lane,
Who?
Trish Lane.
Is she county or state or?
She's county.
So then he told me that he had somebody come out and, actually I was there, we were doing the garbage and had his house re-evaluated.
Okay.
Did it come up lower or something and he wants it changed? Dale.
See, on that form, Sherry,
Dale.
They ain't gonna happen.
It came up lower, yeah.
Do what?
Gale did?
Or no, higher.
Yeah, Gale came up higher.
So when he had it done, it came up higher?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I
so,
think he was at 11.5 and she reappraised it at 22. And even gave him the benefit.
what was the value that he's requesting on that one form, Sherry?
So did the same person do it or did he have an
No, this is
independent?
this is a different one.
This is a different
Trish
person.
Lane.
It's on
So
the
she
other
did it
form.
twice?
Nope, it's right behind it.
Other than
His house.
Yeah.
If he had it independently done, we don't know any of that, I guess, we didn't hear. If he paid to have it done, I don't know. I didn't hear anything about that one.
Pretty sure he did.
Yeah, we were there. They were there when-
The county or an independent?
I don't know who it was.
A lady.
Was it a woman?
So here's, I guess his assessed value is 26,500,
Maybe you're set.
and he believes the value of the property is 24,000 because no one
But he
offered
told me
more
that
than
he
If
one.
you were that one, would do any good.
He said he
Well,
was-
it's a whole process too, because
Yeah.
even if we were
The state's
to,
gonna follow her.
I mean,
not-
he said it was privately assessed, but it doesn't say by who, so I'm not sure if he's got,
But then he has to get
So once
Fisher.
again, it has nothing to do with us, the county can.
The county's gonna, yeah.
Why do we?
Why do we have to
City
screw
has
up?
no control over the price of that.
We'll deal with it next meeting.
yeah.
This is what they came out and did all
I got
this.
nothing.
They expected it.
What do you got for water sewer policing?
Nada.
Jeffrey Hyde, Park Streets? Larry? Lauren?
Building permit, Harvey Fiechner. It's a storage building. I think
Room left or anything?
it's about 10 by 10 by, I don't know exactly. I didn't go measure it or look at it. 10 by 12, whatever, it's up already. Rimble's built it. And it's just sitting on skids.
Okay. Take a motion to approve Harvey's.
So moves. Second.
Andrew second, all in favor? Opposed? All right, old business, we have the water problem over at Black's House, liquor license for 2020 was approved for,
That, wait a minute, that bill from DeWolf Backhoe for
That was
$21.35.
a little more expensive than what you thought. Would you like to see that bill?
No, was it that strictly for that Black's house?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
It's a little more than what you had, what you had thought.
okay, we'll get to that when we go over bills. Two lights out at Allied, Channel notified, I think those have been replaced.
Yep.
Obviously more engineering was here, went over the protest, and street project was recommended to move forward. New business for tonight was more engineering, who was on the agenda already, and snow removal, which we covered prior. Any other new business? If not, date and time of next meeting, Monday, February 3rd. Is that right? And
Yeah.
Absent.
You'll be absent?
Yeah.
That looks good to me. Any objections? If not, I'll take a motion to, oh, why isn't that on there? Should I not see it?
What's that?
They approved bills
Oh,
as a line item.
8 point,
Oh, I didn't put that, I'm sorry.
So we just talked about it.
Now, if you'll see, that's 2 different months, because I've been learning little by little. I'm just trying to get them all caught up the way they should be.
I assume there's not much we're gonna be able to do with D-Well's backhoe, is there?
Did they say any reason why it was higher than we expected? Was it just more time or to run into issues or?
I don't know, would you like to see the bill? I know they charge
Never
winter,
really
I know
run into
they,
any issues.
I know they charge winter billing. That makes a difference.
There's much we can
Maybe
do
it
about it.
was, maybe it was because it was kind of spur of the moment.
Cause they
I thought you
replaced
said we were in
every,
the area, didn't you? Weren't they in the area?
T-Wolves? No, we weren't.
Or is that something different or something?
That was the guy for the fire hydrant that was.
Have they given, I mean, have they given us a quote that we're saying this is higher, or this is higher than just we thought?
Well, they never gave a quote.
No,
It was just,
but when we talked about it at the last meeting, we thought it would have been about 1,500.
right,
Well,
but they replaced it all the way from the main, right?
not a new line, no. They just rehooked the line up to the main and then dug up, put it in a new curb stop.
Oh.
They didn't put in new lines or anything.
Okay.
6 hours of crawler winter, $5 an hour. 5 hours skid steer winter at $90 an hour. 8 hours labor winter at $65 an hour, and an hour excavation at $115 an hour. I'm not sure we can do a whole lot, I mean, I guess I'm good with it,
We told them we would cover it, so.
right?
That's for Scott.
No, it's for the people that bought this place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All right, take a motion to approve bills if there's no other questions.
So move.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and again, date and time of next meeting is Monday, February 3rd, 7 PM here. Take a motion to adjourn if there's no other business.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Just a hair over on there.